Leftover lasagna.
Leftover lasagna.
Lasagna? No way.
It's a type of sandwich.
Some kind of gross pasta.
Leftover
Lasagna
is a podcast hosted by Nitin
Chachal.
and Tony Uncle. Leftover lasagna.
Very funny name.
Hello and welcome to Leftover Lasagna in 2026. We are still here and this is episode 46. What's up, Nitin? How are you? How's 2026?
Happy New Year, Tony. We already wished each other on bits and pieces and in real life. But
But you can't say Happy New Year till 31st January, da.
January 31st.
Scientifically.
அது ஏன் ஜனவரி 31 வரும்போது நியூ இயர் கொண்டாடுறீங்கன்னு கேக்குற மாதிரி இருக்கு சார். ஜனவரி 31 வந்தா தானே சார் நியூ இயர் கொண்டாட முடியும்.
That's what I was saying. So, between Simbu, in one speech that he gave a couple of years back,
Yeah.
which
That's the same one, no? It's all same speech.
yeah. The maths varadu is a different one, but he was giving
but
one speech on
Jallikattu.
the Jallikattu protest, which is around Matu Pongal, which is mid-January. In that one speech, he has basically taken ownership of the entire month of January, basically starting from New Year through Pongal to Simbu New Year, which is 31st of January.
Nice. 31st January.
Thrice in the month, everyone thinks of Simbu. So, there you go.
Symbolified that one. Yeah, so momentous day, Nitin, where we have created or are in the process of creating not one but two things. Why don't you tell us about your way back into writing?
Tony and I, along with our good friend Prashant PP, hi Prashant, thanks for listening to us regularly, have together kicked off something new, which we don't know where it'll go, but we've come up with the idea of a relay story.
Hey, it's finished.
where
That story is done.
one story is done. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we have written our first relay story. What is a relay story, you may ask? I don't have a Wikipedia page to point you to, but it is an idea that we conjured up from
It's
our
not an
assets.
established concept. Huh? You came
Is
up
it?
with it.
I have no idea.
I don't know. It seems like it
Maybe
should
it
be.
is.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe you should do more solutions. But one day you suddenly told us you want to write a relay story. I assumed since it had a name, it was a legit thing.
Did I actually say relay story? Maybe I did. I don't
Branding.
know.
Branding is
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, you did.
Yeah. We don't know. I don't know if the concept
You
exists,
had
but
full
the
concept
idea
laid
was
out like Sachin Tendulkar pitching 225 over innings in an ODI. You were like relay story. Basically, first person writes around 1,000 words, second person then takes it forward,
Yeah.
and then third person finishes. So, yeah.
correct.
So, you had full format laid out.
That is true. It is a story in 3 parts, and we write it one person at a time, 1,000 odd words each. And we did not discuss any plot. We just decided to get started. Both these boys, Prashant and Tony, very enthusiastically jumped in, being the wonderful writers that they are, and more importantly, the most generous boys that they are. So Prashant kicked off the story. He seems to have hundreds of stories that he can pull out of thin air at a moment's notice. And then I wrote the second part of the story, and Tony completed the story in style.
Yeah.
You can check it out at Tony's Substack, which is whereisbillwatterson.substack.com. Is that the name? Yeah, that's the
Right.
name, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So please check out our relay story and leave comments and share and
No, but
subscribe.
I love how your clarification was we didn't discuss plot. No listeners of Leftover Lasagna have ever thrown this allegation at us. That at any point
Yeah,
have we
is
discussed
true.
plots. That's
that is true. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm surprised that this is not an established concept because it was really, really fun, right? One, you have like the accountability saying, oh, you have to write. Otherwise, you and me would never have written if not for PDP sort
Yeah.
of laying down the first
Correct.
100 yards very quickly in
Yeah.
such a beautiful manner. Then you felt the
Yeah.
pressure. Then I also, and then you finished in 2 days. Then I felt full pressure saying, okay, we will push the recording to later in the day. Let me write this. Yeah.
I've wanted to start writing, and I've been too lazy and embarrassed to put pen to paper, worried about where it would go and whether I'd be able to come up with anything coherent. So this was a great forcing function in 2 ways. First, obviously having 2 accountability partners to push me along, who are quite prolific in their writing outside of this project anyway. And the fact that
Oneness,
Prashant very
yeah.
gamely, it's okay. Compared to me, everyone is. It's okay. And the fact that Prashant was so ready to take the first step and write the first part of the story was great for me, because when you start a project like this, there's always going to be starting problem. Starting a story from scratch is not something that, especially given my mindset, it was not something that was going to come naturally to me. So I was very, very happy that Prashant set up the story. And I knew that I would really struggle to finish the story, because you want a very satisfying end to short stories. So I quickly jumped at the option of being, middle order batsman. And in my opinion, that was the easiest of the three roles. I'll leave it at that. I'll say thank you,
Yeah.
thank you to both of you for actually humoring me and kicking this off. Yeah.
For me, writing has always been a very difficult thing to do, and the process itself is not something that I've yet learned how to enjoy, right? It is still torture. Like, till I actually sit down and write and finish. When I finish, I get a high, but like the process is torture. But here it was actually kind of fun, because like there was some stuff laid out for us, right? So yeah, I'm guessing we might do another version or not, but yeah, this is fun, man. Like, also, strangely enough, it is opposite for what we are discussing today. Which,
How is it?
Nitin, 2026 is your year, because you are chock full of ideas. For once, you've come up with a podcast episode idea as well. Right? So, not dry January.
Yeah, so Tony accused me of not initiating, like one of those burned lovers who's lying down on the bed waiting for the other partner to show interest in, getting intimate. Tony accused me of not actually taking the initiative with leftover lasagna episodes in the recent past, which is true, because most of the episodes have been initiated by him. Episode ideas have come from him. But this time I said, okay, damn it, I will initiate this time and we will do something. So the idea I originally initiated for this episode last week was that we will both talk about 2 or 3 of our favorite films, right? And there was no real agenda more than that. We just said we'll talk about movies that we like.
Because you've never run another movie podcast.
Yeah, it's a new idea altogether. Yeah. No, both of us are prolific movie watchers, and I think we find common ground, especially in Malayalam cinema, where both of us, really enjoy it and like discussing things related to Malayalam cinema quite a bit. So I thought this makes a lot of sense, though it has, nothing in common with some of our previous episodes, except maybe for the cultural lessons from Drishyam episode, which I think was the one where we went on at length about cinema in the past. Yes. So I propose that we do this. My only condition to Tony was that he tells me beforehand what are the 2 or 3 films that he wants to talk about. And I gave him a list of 2 or 3 films that I wanted to talk about as well. And Tony gave me his list yesterday. And one of the films in that list is The Prestige, right? Which is a film that Tony has spoken about in the past as well to me. It's a movie he loves a lot. A movie that I also like quite a bit, but wasn't a movie I'd revisited. And it's something that I had wanted to actually go back and watch. So before this recording, I actually watched Prestige, right, yesterday. And I just had a flood of thoughts in my mind as I rewatched this wonderful film, that I told Tony, you know what, let's not do the 3 films. Let's just talk about Prestige. And
Yeah. Let's not do the 6 films. Let's do the
let's not do
3.
let's not do the 6 films, because let's save them for another episode. Whenever Tony accuses me of not initiating, I have 5 more episodes now. That is The Prestige, where I bring it back and confuse you. So anyway, so we decided to just talk about The Prestige and to take whatever tangent it takes.
So the laziest date idea is, let's go to a movie, right? Because
whatever is running on Netflix.
Yeah. No, as in, like,
yeah.
if you have to plan another date, like some activity, something you have to put in thought, you have to make sure both people enjoy, then you have to like also be physically actively participating. Let's go for a movie.
Correct.
Like 4
Perfect.
hours, popcorn, movie.
Anything can happen.
Then you have
If
something
it's
to
a
talk
bad
about.
movie,
Brilliant.
yeah. No, and if it's an empty cinema hall, then you can make out. Or you can, if it's a bad movie, you can fall asleep. Right? There are so many ways in which it can go, right? And all of them are good. Like there's no bad outcome.
Yeah.
There's no bad outcome. So yeah.
Very nice.
It's good.
Good job.
Yeah. So The Prestige,
Getting
Tony.
insights
Let's
Yeah.
beforehand, if you're one of those rare human beings who has somehow landed up here without having watched Christopher Nolan's The Prestige, here is a warning up front. There will be spoilers. Okay, we are going to spoil the movie. And no, I'm not just talking about the quality of the discussion. We are going to spoil the movie literally as well. So please watch The Prestige and then come back and watch this episode. It's okay if we lose a listener in the process, but please don't ruin Prestige for yourselves by watching this episode first.
Yeah.
But yeah.
A real magician tries to invent something new. It's something that other magicians will scratch their heads over.
I suppose you have such a trick.
Actually, I do. It's the one they're gonna remember me for.
Every great magic trick consists of 3 acts. The first act is called the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary, but of course, it probably isn't. The second act is called the turn.
He's obsessed with discovering your method.
The magician makes this ordinary something do something extraordinary. Now you're looking for the secret, but you won't find it. That's why there's a third act called the prestige. This is the part with the twists and turns, where lives hang in the balance.
Julie, come on!
And you see something shocking you've never seen before. This was built by a man who can actually do what magicians pretend to do.
Real magic.
I know what you really are.
How does he do it?
You want the truth? Nothing is impossible. Abracadabra.
I mean, the jumping off point to start with was this recent brilliant Malayalam movie which has come on Netflix called Echo, EKO, and if by chance some of our listeners haven't watched it, please watch it, right? But the amazing thing about that was basically in the promos and everything, it said this is the culmination of the Animal trilogy. The first one being Kishkinta Kandam, which was, a popular enough movie that I was like, okay, which is the second part? And then the second part apparently is a series on Hotstar called Kerala Crime Files, which I watched. And here's the interesting part is that Kishkinda Kandam and Echo have the same director, right? Dinjit Ayathan. But I think Kerala Crime Files 2 is directed by someone else, right? But the reason it's a trilogy is because the writer is the one initiating this, right? He is basically the owner of the movie and someone who was pushing the narrative forward, so much so that he's calling it his trilogy, right? Which is a very rare occurrence. And so after watching Echo, I was quite fascinated by it. And then there was like a beautiful 2-hour chat with Bahul Ramesh, who's the writer and also the cinematographer. And at some point, he sort of says, my favorite ever movie is The Prestige. And the interviewer is like, yeah, it's also my favorite Nolan movie. And he's like, oh, awesome, thumbs up. And I'm like, oh, okay, beautiful. Like, now I'm on solid ground to be able to recommend The Prestige to Nitin Sundar also. So that is how I did.
My God. First of all, you're recommending a movie to me that I've already watched like many years back. Secondly, this is not like a movie you pulled out of nowhere, right? Everybody knows The Prestige. I mean, it was made by Nolan after all. But
which is why I'm saying, and the beauty of The Prestige is that it's not like a mind-bendy sci-fi kind of all that like high funda shit that you need to understand otherwise that Nolan pulls off sometimes, right? It is like a movie that is set a couple of centuries back and like a very, very believable, like Sherlock Holmesian kind of setting and plot and stuff like that, but done so beautifully that they give you like, they're telling you that it's a story about magic. They like, if you watch closely, you can figure out the trick. And they take you through the entire movie and then they pull off the trick right in front of your eyes, which is like insane, like which is like the peak of what to me narrative structure and writing can be, right? And to me, always I've said it's the writing that makes it, and Prestige is probably the best example because it doesn't have any of those other like graphics or any other nonsense which makes other movies brilliant. Therefore
absolutely right. So in the interest of just structuring this discussion better, I'm going to give a very, very quick summary of the film in my own words. Let me try. So the film traces the story of two young magicians, right? So they're played respectively by Christian Bale and by Hugh Jackman. So one of the jokes is that it is Batman and Wolverine basically as the two magicians from different parts of their career. Yeah, so this is set in, like Tony mentioned, about 2 centuries back, when the science and literature and everything is exploding. You have these two young magicians who are apprenticing under one kind of magic company of sorts, and they both want to make it big as magicians. And over the course of this film, a bitter rivalry breaks out between them, which is initiated by a tragedy that happens early on in the film, where they kind of then go on their separate paths, and both of them in some way get obsessed with becoming the better magician or trying to find out what the big trick in the other person's arsenal is, trying to one up each other right through the film. And as it emerges through the movie, there's one signature magic trick that both of them get known for. It's called the transported man. The transported man is the name of the trick. Basically, on the stage, you have two doors. One door opens, the magician goes into that door, and barely a second later, he emerges out of another door. He throws a ball towards the other end of the stage, and in the other end of the stage is another door through which the magician appears like a moment later to catch the ball, right? And there's no physically explainable way in which the same person is able to come out of the second door in such a short period of time after going into the first door. But that is the trick, right? And
So sorry, you know why I'm laughing? BCCI originally tried this with Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma in 2 separate class. And they couldn't do it with 2 different people, so they had to put them in the same class.
This is, of course, a reference to something that happened a week back in the world of cricket, which is, of course, our other favorite pet topic, where the BCCI, in its old cringeworthy way, the Indian Cricket Board was trying to felicitate Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma by putting them inside a box that was in the shape of a cricket bat. And the aim was to apparently open the box and surprise all the onlookers that, Kohli and Rohit were inside this box, and it would be awesome. Except there is this huge bat-shaped box in the middle of the ground, and people are wondering what the hell is going on. The doors are in the front, but suddenly you have the door. These two guys who are stuck inside this box are trying to open the door from behind and come out from the other side.
Yeah. No, so if you think about it, it is actually the Prestige.
The exact opposite of the Prestige.
This movie tells you that there are 3 parts to a magic trick, right? The pledge,
Correct.
the turn, and the Prestige. The pledge is where you show something ordinary, and then the turn is when you turn it, make it disappear, and the Prestige is when you bring it back. So Gautam Gambhir tried to make Rohit and Kohli vanish, and now they've been brought back. It is actually the Prestige. Quickly, can we turn this into a bits and pieces recording?
Multitasking, indeed. Yeah, that was so funny. And as things happened, I actually believe that trick was the exact opposite of the Prestige, because
yeah,
they
you
first
knew
did
exactly what it's going to.
Rohit and Kohli are very prestigious people, so the prestige part came first. You tried to hide it inside the box. What did Rohit and Kohli do? They turned around in the box and tried to come out through the backside. So that was the turn. And after this happened, the BCCI probably pledged to never try something so silly again. This was the exact opposite. So instead of one magician and 2 doors, you had 2 magicians and 1 door here. Actually, 2 doors, on the front door and the back door.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how far the metaphor will go. So what the movie reveals to us is that through the course of the film is that while these 2 people have their own proprietary ways in which they do the magic trick, and it shows it to us very clearly what their ways are. So Hugh Jackman's character, he plays this character called, what's his name? His name is Angier. He actually stumbles upon, so Tony said this film doesn't have too much of the scientific mumbo jumbo that you usually get to see in a Christopher Nolan film, except this film actually has the character of Nikola Tesla in the process of inventing, alternating current and building a kind of a cloning machine, which actually becomes a plot device in this film, because that cloning machine is what Hugh Jackman then uses. He hacks it to perform the trick on the stage. Hugh Hackman. Yeah. So he literally clones himself every day when he does this trick, right? There are 2 versions of Hugh Jackman.
Just stepping back, right? So the beautiful part about this, and why it is my favorite movie of all time, is that, like, I occasionally try to, you also, Nitin, send cryptic crossword clues on the group, and then you are trying to solve it. And the intent of the solution is that it has to be satisfying on multiple levels, right? One, it has to get you to the answer. Two, it has to also trick you in some ways to say, wow, okay, I mean, that was kind of clever. And then later you're also like, yeah, it was obvious. How else could it have been done, right? Which is also what like a satisfying magic trick is. And the best part is, so the movie starts off with these two guys trying to land the same promoter, right, who was basically explaining everything to us, right, saying behind every magic trick, behind every illusion is a disappointing trick, right, which is why you never explain what the trick is. And he shows how like
Correct.
the bird flies and there's actually a bird smashed in the magician's hand and stuff like that, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so
And that's the thing, right? So the moment the moment when the magic trick is revealed, or the secret behind the magic trick is revealed, it ceases to be magic at that point. And then after that, once you know it, you completely lose interest in the trick. And which is why magicians guard their tricks very, very, very closely, right? Because that's everything. Because the moment it's broken, it's gone.
Yeah, no, so the beauty here is that all along the narrator is telling you exactly what is going to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
But you don't believe him, right? Like he's basically continuing to tell the character of Hugh Jackman, look, there is no way this trick can be done. He is using a body double, right? He's using a
Correct.
second person. And Hugh Jackman's like, no way, right? Like he's refusing
Correct.
to accept it, right? And then
Yeah.
also when they are initially friends, there is a scene where this guy basically takes him to see a old Chinese magician
Yeah.
who pulls out a
An
freaking
old
huge fishbowl
crippled
from his- yeah.
old crippled Chinese magician who limps onto the stage or hobbles onto the stage in a huge gown, right? One of those Chinese gowns. He's a very frail old man. He's moving very slowly and all of that. He comes and stands in front of the stage. He wiggles, this curtain, this gown like thing in front of him. And when he lifts the curtain, when he lifts the veil, there's a huge fish bowl on the table.
Yeah.
Where earlier there
With
was
full
nothing.
of water, yeah.
Full of water. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
Bowden figures out the trick and tells it to Angier, who again doesn't believe, right? And he's showing him, look, I'll show you the trick. And they go outside after the show and see him walking. And he's saying, this is the actual illusion, right?
Yes.
That he's trying to tell you that he's a cripple, but he's actually not, right? He's as strong as an ox and he's actually doing it physically.
Yeah.
So that
He has an actual
it
fish
takes
bowl.
great sacrifice, yeah.
He's carrying a huge ass fish bowl, under his gown. And basically, what he does as a trick, which you think he's conjuring out of nowhere, is basically just revealing the fish bowl that he has been holding and carrying all along, which must be weighing, I don't know, 30 kilos. Just that
Yeah.
he's actually a very strong grip man who is capable of carrying that bowl and going everywhere. But the real magic trick, like you said, is that he's leading his life and he's basically performing the trick every single living moment of his life, because he
Yeah.
leads everyone to believe that he is this old, frail dude who obviously cannot be carrying a massive fish bowl under him every single day. Which points to, of course, the massive sacrifices that magicians and artists, every single artist, has to go through in order to further their craft and to ensure that they continue to have, relevance and love from the audience that they're looking for. Right.
Okay.
Now, like you mentioned, Tony, magic is only fun until the trick is revealed to you, right? So it's very important for a magician to hide his trick. The beauty of this film is that Christopher Nolan does not hide anything from you.
Yeah, exactly.
Throughout the film, he is literally telling you exactly what it is. In fact, the first 2 or 3 scenes of the film, in a sense, reveal exactly what the tricks are. Because right at the start of the film, you see, it's basically there is a desolate house, and outside this desolate building, and outside the building there are hundreds of hats, right? We don't understand what those hats stand for. They look like top hats, the kind of hat that Mandrake the magician would be wearing, and there are hundreds of them. We don't realize the significance of that scene until much later in the film, when it is revealed that Nikola Tesla is building that cloning machine, and that cloning machine actually is able to produce hats, right? You put a hat into it, it basically duplicates anything that is put into it, and the first thing he tries to test it with is Angier's hat. And Angier's hat, from which is being put into the cloning machine inside the building, gets cloned, hundreds of times over outside the building.
Actually,
and
he's trying to replicate the same trick but better, right? And he's like, if anyone can, Tesla can. And the idea is to teleport that hat from one place to another. Except Tesla ends up inventing a clone. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So Tesla ends up inventing a cloning machine, basically, which is what Hugh Jackman later uses, as I mentioned. Except you now have a problem, because if you want to transport a man from one end of the stage to another, you're basically looking at one man being at both places at the same time. What you don't want is two men actually being there, which is what this machine does, right? Because every time he performs the trick, basically a clone of Hugh Jackman, of Angier, appears. And so the way Angier then pulls off the magic trick is to have a trap door into which the original Hugh Jackman falls and drowns and dies, right? Every single night when he performs the trick. There is a significance. There are two things over there. So the firstly, in the very first scene of the film, like I said, they show you the hats, right? Which is the way Hugh Jackman performs the trick using the cloning machine. The second scene of the film basically shows us a bunch of birds, right? And these are birds which are couples of birds inside a cage. They're two very similar looking birds. This is the oldest magic trick a lot of us would have seen, where you put a pigeon into the hat and then the magician makes the pigeon disappear. In this film, the way this trick with the bird is performed, when the bird disappears, what actually happens is there is obviously one bird is up. There are two birds involved. One bird is up the sleeve of the magician. The other bird gets kind of trapped and crushed inside a cage, right? Outside, away from the vision of the people who are looking at the trick. Right? So when he does this and the bird disappears, what actually happens is that small bird gets crushed to death. And then he flicks the other bird, or the decoy bird, out from his sleeve and makes the bird reappear, in a sense. But actually the bird they're seeing is another bird. Now, the fact that there are two birds,
the first bird dies.
And the first bird dies, is exactly what basically Hugh Jackman does in his trick.
Yeah.
He sort of kills one bird every night in order to make this magic trick work. It is a variant of this same trick that is being performed by the other magician, who is Borden, played by Christian Bale. Now, Christian Bale, very much like that Chinese magician that they kind of stalk and figure out what his trick is leading his entire life as a magician. It's actually not one person. There are two people. So there are two twins. The Christian Bale
Which
is
what
actually
Cutter
plays a
says
double.
from the beginning. Yeah.
Which Cutter says right at the beginning, right? So he has a body double. His body double is his own twin brother. Except apart from these two people, nobody in the world knows that there are two of them, right? Instead, what we see is one of them is always in a disguise, and he is kind of like a friend who is always hanging around with the magician. But it's actually two different people, and they just keep swapping their disguise every day. So one of them plays the magician and the other one plays the friend, and then they change it the next day and so on. So the way he plays the trick is basically, it's actually two birds. It's actually two twin birds. But one bird doesn't die every day because these two continue to live throughout, but they keep swapping identities. What the film also metaphorically says is the fact that he is sacrificing, or these two guys together are sacrificing one of their identities through the movie in order to make their magic trick believable, in a sense, is like dying, that one bird that keeps dying every night, because both of them are leading half lives, right? They're not able to lead a complete life because they need to continue to hold that illusion. They both love different women who they like very fondly, except that when they're changing their roles every single day, it becomes obvious even to the women in their lives that on some days, the object of their affection is kind of able to mirror the love that they expect.
It's not initiating.
On other days, not on other days, they're just not initiating. Exactly. So, and that is the trick that's revealed, right? So you would imagine that in a film like this, in the hands of a lesser director or a lesser, a lesser writer or a creator, it would be the Tesla machine that would be the jaw drop moment for you in this film, right? But the Tesla machine and its ability to clone is something that's actually revealed to you just as the movie goes. And that's not really the jaw drop moment. The penny drop moment is when you realize that actually Borden is played by two, there are actually two Bordens and not one.
Yeah.
And again, that is told to you right at the beginning, because the character played by this guy, the old man,
Michael Caine.
Yeah, Cutter, who's the promoter. Michael Caine, of course. Michael Caine says very clearly right at the beginning that he definitely has a body double, which doesn't get believed and all of that, but that's exactly what it is. I think that's the fact that Nolan is able to reveal his hand to you throughout the film without really hiding anything, and still makes you get that wow moment. And in the process also creates, like you said about crosswords, right? This is a movie that will reward you on every rewatch if you can, because once you figure out what happens, if you go back and watch the scenes, right, the movie starts making every single scene in the movie, every time a certain reaction is played by one of the two Bordens, you kind of realize that okay, this is where the swap has happened. This is where the other person's come out, and for me that is really a standout.
And you're
aspect
like,
of this film.
and the second time you watch it, you're like, yeah, it's obvious. Like, I mean, because obviously Hugh Jackman's first wife gets killed in that trick, and
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
occasion this guy says, I don't know which knot I tied, right? Because it is the other guy who tied the
Yeah.
knot, right? And
The-
stuff like that.
The guy who tied the knot.
And
Yes.
yeah, and like you can understand Angier's frustration also, because like how is it possible, right? And he can't be that convincing a
Yeah.
liar. So the beauty of the whole
Yeah.
movie is that it's been written as a full-fledged magic trick, which is a movie about magic tricks, right? So it's like that meta level, which is extremely difficult to pull off, right? It's, you want to make sure that nobody gets it till you reveal it, right? Which is insane.
Yeah.
And you're also revealing
Yeah.
how it is done, which is
Yeah.
why it's like crazy. It's like the perfect sort of written movie for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And while they do it also, right, there's so much of a little bit of detailing where obviously you have these two big actors, right? Both these guys are kind of headliners. And this was in the second phase, so to speak, of Nolan's character, where he was able to command, big studio budgets for movies and stars of this kind. But the characters they play are delineated quite beautifully, right? While both of them are magicians, both of them are trying to get to the same end. You see subtle differences in the way they approach magic, right? So Hugh Jackman, Angier, is there for the wow moment. He wants to be a showman, while the other guy is not so much of a showman, right? In fact, while he has a great trick, right, which Hugh Jackman's not able to figure out, the reason he's looking for Tesla's machine to replicate the trick that this guy does is because he says, I have the showmanship to be able to perform this trick well. Bowden has the trick itself, but he's not able to sell it to a big crowd because he's more of a studious, a technically thinking magician rather than, a performer of sorts, right? And this comes through right through the film. If you go back and look at the film, you'll see that, both of these philosophies are weighing very, very differently on the two of them. You also see that, Hugh Jackman's very keen to get to the bottom of the trick and understand the trick, right? And reveal it. And one of the things that Hugh Jackman hates about actually using a body double, he actually tries to use a body double, which doesn't go too well for him because the body double doesn't actually live the life of the magician, and hence the trick kind of falls apart eventually. He gets exposed. But he hates doing it that way because if you use a body double for this trick, the original person actually will disappear, right, and go backstage while the body double appears for the latter part of the trick. And the body double then ends up getting all the applause, right? And that's something that really grates for Hugh Jackman, and he doesn't enjoy doing the trick that way and all of that. So it's all these little things that come.
Just one point on that, the whole thing is that another reason why I think it's the function of what movie you enjoy is also a function of what you were exposed to growing up. And one of the we had this moment where Nitin, you were talking about the Trevor Noah podcast with one of his friends, where he was talking about how he grew up in Uganda and then he made it to the US, and therefore like he's exposed to multicultures and stuff like that. So I mean, growing up, I obviously watched a lot of Malayalam movies, and the first thing that like struck me when I started watching Bollywood movies was like the punchline has actually happened, and there are like two more dialogues explaining it, right?
Right.
Like we get it the first time. Like I'm like, why are
Yeah.
you explaining this? Like it is as subtle as a sledgehammer, right? So like what Malayalam movies do well is that, for me, the perfect level of reveal where it is like you're not insulting the audience, right? You're sort of expecting them to work out the joke, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like a Bollywood where it is hammering you, right?
Hammer,
But to
yeah.
pull off that with a plot as opposed to a joke is like
Yeah.
insanely hard, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
you literally have only, I mean, if you miss one joke, it's okay. You like there are several through the movies where you're probably layering it at different pitching to the middle and stuff, right? But to do that even in a crossword, if a few clues are hard, it's fine, right? Like as long as the overall effect comes together, it's okay. But to do that with a plot, right? Like imagine
Yeah.
someone works out the plot like very early on, then it's
Yeah.
fairly boring, right? To
Yeah.
do that is insane, right?
Yeah.
So that level, it's amazing for me. And also the fact that you told me yesterday that the novel was actually written by someone else, but actually
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan co-wrote this movie with his brother, right? So like we know which side of the two magicians he's probably on in that sense, right?
You're right. Yeah. So it was originally written as a book, and I'm actually keen to read the book now. I don't know if it's as well written as the movie is. I think the screenplay of the
Yeah.
movie and the detailing in the film is something else. The acting is also, of course, quite extraordinary, and the jaw drop moments and everything happen. You mentioned that this is not one of the usual Nolan mumbo jumbo films, but this actually features Tesla in it, the actual scientist
Yeah.
Tesla in
Yeah.
in Life and Blood, played by the late great singer David Bowie, by the way. Which and the makeup is so good that you actually you will not realize that it is David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust unless you actually go and look up in the credits who it was. But the thing is, this movie also has the side sort of plot, which is the rivalry between Edison and Tesla, right?
Tesla, yeah.
Yeah. So Edison, obviously the champion of direct current, and Tesla, who is introducing alternating current to the world, as it be. And through this movie, where Tesla is trying to get funds to conduct his experiments and to build this machine and all these other things, there are multiple instances where Edison and his fanatics kind of come and sabotage Tesla's plans, and Tesla eventually has to go into, he pretty much hides right in the latter half of the film, leaving the cloning machine behind for Angier to take, which a bit is like the way the plot loops around between these two rivals, right? And there's a lot of plot within a plot within a plot that happens because both these people leave diaries which they literally leave in order to mislead the other magician, and also instigate the plot in such a way that the other magician finds the diary and reads it, and in the diary actually calls them out, hey, I know you're reading this right now. And like any other Nolan film, it also has multiple time loops, and it takes a little bit of time to figure out where you are in the storyline itself. But I think all of that is played out really well. And in this film, like you said, it's a very accessible film, right? You don't need to sit with a paper and a pen to understand the logic of this film the way you might have to do if you're watching Dunkirk or actually Inception or the other one, which was complete mumbo jumbo, right? Tenet. Tenet is a movie that you'll have to basically sit with the textbook and you still wouldn't understand anything. At the end of it, you'll just give up and say, give me the answer key for it. On the on the surface, obviously it's two magicians, their respective tricks, their respective approaches to magic, and how everything neatly ties together in the end, and the magic trick is pulled in front of your eyes and everything. Another way to kind of read the film is, one of these guys is performing an artist's version of magic, while the other is performing a scientific version of magic. They're playing the exact same. They're playing exactly the same trick, right? And to the lay person who's watching the magic trick, it doesn't make a difference whether one person is getting cloned and dying every night and another person emerges from another corner, or if one person is disappearing and his twin brother is appearing from another corner. Both of these tricks can be played out really well as long as you conceal what you're doing, which is what these respective magicians do through the film, right? But I like how, in a sense, like you did mention that it's clear which of the two brothers Nolan is siding with, right? And this film is literally art versus science, right? It is the art of magic is what Christian Bale is pulling off, where you're literally leading your entire life as a magician in order to perform and perfect that trick, while Christian Bale hacks a scientific machine which can clone someone every single night and uses that to play the trick. As the film plays out, obviously the protagonist in this film is Christian Bale, and the antagonist is Hugh Jackman, right? And that it does set it up that way, though. Like you mentioned, there's Hugh Jackman has a very good reason to be, for the way he goes after Burden to be agreed, because his wife dies in the beginning of the film. The way she dies kind of ties back and all of that as well. But I like this art versus science comment, and I think Nolan is one of those guys who sits squarely at the center of that debate, literally, because if you watched his movies, we both gave each other a list of 3 films each without prior consultation. I gave you a Nolan film from my list, which was Interstellar, and you gave me Prestige, right? And Interstellar is one of the most dense scientific kind of films that have been made, and that he literally had to get scientists on his writing team to vet the scientific, like he comes up with the idea of a black hole, he comes up with the idea of a wormhole, and traveling through space time in that film. Not very straightforward concepts for anyone in the audience to understand, but the beauty of Nolan, of course, is that he takes such a heavy concept, he breaks it down for you, and he makes you literally cry with that scientist who is suddenly stuck in outer space, and in a period of a few seconds has ended up losing many years of his life and his child's life, and he misses the growth of his child because he's stuck in space and there's a time difference and all of that. You don't really understand the concept when you first watch the film, or for many people would really try to struggle to come to terms with what that film is trying to say. But the beauty of Nolan's films is that he takes those concepts and makes them as accessible as they can be. I wouldn't say that he makes them all accessible, like we did speak about Tenet, but I think he's one of those, there are obviously, there's someone like an Isaac Asimov. There are lots of people who do science fiction, right? But I think what Nolan does is a little more than that, right? In many ways, I think he fits in that comfortably on both camps. And furthering.
I know you like Dunkirk. Why?
Dunkirk is another film that I need to rewatch. I only watched it once.
Yeah,
why I like,
and okay, I watched it in the theater, and I've never gone back and watched it again. But like when it's been at least more than 10, 11 years now, no? But when people refer to it as a great Nolan movie, I'm like, wait, what? Like it was like such an underwhelming film for me, because again, like what I see with most things is the writing side of things, right? And Dunkirk, first of all, is not like a very
it's not.
story,
there isn't much.
Right?
There isn't much of writerly. There isn't much of writerly flourish in Dunkirk. Right? It's a very straight script. I think
the tension I'm bringing back is the writer versus director / visual side of movies, as it were.
Yeah. So for me, writing is important, but it's not the only thing I look for in a film, right? And Dunkirk, I think I actually happened to watch Dunkirk in one of the best IMAX screens that was available back then in India. I remember exactly where I watched it. This was in Noida at this. I don't know if they still have an
when
IMAX
you could
screen
still
there,
see the screen when the AQI wasn't as bad as it is now.
Before the bombs fell. Yeah. There is this scene in Dunkirk where all these guys are on the shoreline and the bomb run is about to happen. And I think the protagonist is down there and the bombs start falling, right, one after the other. I remember that scene so vividly because it truly was a very, very immersive scene where I literally felt I was on that shoreline and there were bombs falling on me, right? And for me, Dunkirk for me works because of that reason more than anything else. It's just a extremely, it's a very immersive experience. And I think Nolan is one of those guys who goes to great lengths, right, to make films more immersive, more bigger than they need to be. There was this joke about Oppenheimer, right, when it came a couple of years back, where it was shot entirely in IMAX. There was obviously this one big scene in the middle of the film, which is the bomb bursting, or rather, the bursting makes it sound like a Diwali cracker, but where the bomb goes off, right, and the sort of reaction that it has, on the faces of all the scientists who are watching, they've all applied sunscreen and everything. But there was this joke about this film that outside of that scene, which goes on for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and the actual explosion itself happens in 30 seconds. Outside of that scene, it's a very talky film, right? It's just a lot of people talking to each other all the time. And then like, why exactly did you use IMAX, film and IMAX cameras to shoot this film? And then people are like, you can see every pore on Cillian Murphy's face, right? Because on IMAX screen, you can go and see so closely.
Not on whoever the woman was, because in India, she wore a black dress. Put on
This is a good question that you asked, right? So Dunkirk for me really was, I would say, the last of the Nolan films that I enjoyed, right? I truly enjoyed Dunkirk because I think after Dunkirk, Dunkirk was after Interstellar, right? It better be, because I just said it is the last of the films I enjoyed. The ones I remember more recently, of course, are Tenet, which was a terrible film. I was not a huge fan of Oppenheimer. It didn't work for me at all. I thought it was okay, right? But it's the kind of film that I would happily watch on Netflix sitting at home. I don't know what the IMAX cameras and the IMAX film was doing there. And now he's come up with this Odyssey, right? With the trailers have just started coming out, which again is a full-length IMAX screen, IMAX camera, IMAX film.
No, so what I wanted to take it back to was to say, I think the first, I'm not sure if it's the first Nolan film, but I think it's the only film where he's not got writing credits, is Insomnia, which is so beautifully made, right? Like I love that movie.
Yeah.
I love Insomnia, I love Memento. And I feel like there is at some point during this evolution for Christopher Nolan where he's like said,
Exactly.
okay, fuck the writer. Let me go into the visual aspect of things.
Oh, you're coming like that. Well, yeah, that's an interesting take, right? I haven't thought about it that way. Yeah, Insomnia is a film that not many people know or remember, which is strange, in spite of the fact
Because
that
it's
it
Al
has
Pacino, right? And
it has Al Pacino and this guy, right? What's his name? Mr. Doubtfire. What's his name? Robin Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, Robin
Because,
Williams, yeah.
yeah, Al Pacino and Robin Williams. Again, it's a film that I watched long back, and yeah, it's
Thank
again a
God you
film
didn't
that I
say
watched
Amesh
long back.
Sharma.
Like you mentioned, every magic trick has three parts to it, right? So you have
Yeah.
the pledge, the turn, and the prestige. And the prestige is what makes or breaks the trick, right? Because
Correct.
you have to bring it back in the end, right? That's
Yeah.
what everyone is waiting for. So we can very much say that we are now in the prestige part of Christopher Nolan's career, right? In more ways than one, right? Because
This
now
has
is
become full
where
intermission.
he has actually won so much of, he basically commands the industry now, right? There's nothing Nolan cannot do. Studios are willing to give him as much money as he wants. He can take the biggest IMAX cameras in the world and shoot whatever he wants, right? There was a joke sometime back when he started doing all this, time-based experiments such as Tenet, where someone said, yeah, because Inception
Time
is
Warner
time-based
company.
experiment.
Time Warning.
He's a Time Warner company. Like, I mean, we haven't even spoken about Inception, right? What a fantastic idea! What a fantastic concept! So well, beautifully laid out.
Actually, Inception also superb.
Yeah,
Like I feel
unbelievable,
like
right?
Prestige, Inception, and Interstellar basically take the same idea and then like accelerate it.
In some sense, yeah.
This level, yeah.
Well, no, Prestige not really, because Prestige actually doesn't have too much of the
Correct.
time-based stuff. And of course, then there's the Batman trilogy, which I think is mind-blowing in my opinion. It obviously, I think the most popular movie according to most people that Nolan made is probably The Dark Knight, right? Which ranks right up there in IMDb as well. And what he did with Heath Ledger, the entire, I mean, I loved all three films. Lots of people didn't like the third part too much. I quite loved it. Again, like visually spectacular so much. And I'm glad that he got out of that world. He completely went into the superhero thing, did those three films, and got out of it and started doing other stuff again, which I think was great. I'm not very happy with what he's doing though, right? So there was the pledge. The pledge is where, he had like, I don't know, $5,000 and he made this film called The Following. He made Memento, which is such a small film.
The Following. Man.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
The Following was his first film. Yeah, The Following was his first film. And then he made Memento again on a shoestring budget, right? Guy Pearce and what's his name? Christopher Pantolini, the guy who comes in Matrix. I mean, again, a superb idea, right? Like the way the film cuts and intersplices and the way the reveal happens in the end, where you spend an entire couple of hours not understanding what's going on in that film until you start realizing that the movie has been layered and laid out in a certain way. That's when he started experimenting with time. I would say that was the kind of the pledge phase. The turn phase is where he did all these films, right? Insomnia, Batman, and all of that, and became sort of, he really set it up for the big reveal that happens in the end, right? For the Prestige. But what we are now left with is these big, overblown IMAX projects, which frankly leave me a little disappointed, right? And I still hope that we will have the old Nolan back, making truly world class. I'm not really looking forward to the Odyssey because I'm not very happy about.
Yeah, so on one side you have the advancements in movie making technology pushing larger screens, more clarity than this and the other IMAX of the world, which is pushing directors to make large movies like that, right? On the other side, you have the Netflixes of the world saying nobody is watching your movie alone. They're making out. They're also doing phones, so like keep the plot simple and all of that. So writers are also screwed. So I think basically the sweet spot right now is basically Malayalam cinema is what we are coming to, because why not?
Indeed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so, I mean, in some senses, like it's also the tension between like
art and science.
Not just art and science. It's a tension between art.
But that's
and
literally what it is, right?
capitalism.
It's literally what it is. If you actually look at what is that IMAX camera, what is an IMAX camera at the end of the day, right? IMAX film is like order of magnitude bigger than the normal film that is used to shoot movies, right? And film itself is now a relic of the past, because for the last, I don't know what, 30 years. Everything is not 30. In India, it's probably been lesser, but everything is now made digitally, right? Like you don't need to carry film to a movie set.
Yeah.
Back in the day, film reel used to be the biggest line item in the cost and the budget of a film because it's very expensive. It needs to be maintained. It needs to be carried around, everything. And all
Now
of
it
that.
is Instagram Reels.
Now it is Instagram Reels. And the other thing, right? I remember seeing this on some other video on Insta. This actually was a Tamil film director who was talking about this. Back in the day, the director would probably take one shot or two shots to get a scene right because he could not afford to use any more film because film was so
Correct.
expensive. Now what they do is they keep shooting the same scene. They can do it as many times as they want until they get the perfect shot because digital costs nothing. And you actually have an editor on the set who will actually edit it on the spot also and make you see it. So back in the day, you did not have monitors where after you shot something, the actor or the director could not have come back and seen what was shot because there was no way to see it. You have to process the film before you can even see what
There
is
was no
being
third
shot.
umpire. Now it
There
is
was
like,
nothing.
Yeah, give me side on. Give me
Exactly.
Sicko.
Yeah. So you would imagine with things like digital and with the monitor and all of this coming and editing tools that are available now, computers, you would imagine that movie making would become faster, easier, and more efficient. The exact opposite has happened. A
No,
shot
but
which
it
used
has,
to
which
be
is why Malayalam cinema is churning out like movies really, really quickly, right?
If-
Like their
if-
shoot times are very, very fast, and the turnaround.
I don't think Malayalam cinema ever used to take long time to shoot movies. Mohanlal back in the day did 25 films in a year. Right? So-
because they were like
Yeah.
they were writer driven, right? Now the difference has become that they're not just purely writer driven. If you think about it. But anyway, yeah.
I mean, you're probably right about that also. All I'm saying is, once you are given tools, it's we've spoken about this concept in the past, right? Like, there's
Make
never
work.
enough make work exactly. So it doesn't matter how much time you're given to do a project. The project will take as much time as you're given to do
Parkinson's
it,
law.
right? Which is Parkinson's law, whatever. Yeah, exactly. So, which is what is happening with film and technology, and then you have these guys, right? You have Nolan who's saying, "Fuck all this technology and everything. I'm going to go back old school. I'm going to use actual, not just normal reels. I'm going to use IMAX reels to shoot my movies." And IMAX reels are like order of magnitude, they're like 10, 20, 30 times bigger than normal reels because the entire film is that much bigger, right? So imagine that there are machines where, the whole film is so big because that's the only way you get the projection. You need to carry all that, lug that around to the studio or not even studio. Most of these are shot in the real world. He does it with very little CGI. A lot of this is built really. It's almost like saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this the modern way. I want to do this old school, old style because that is what art is, right? And I don't want science to come in the way. It is, and he's not the only person doing it, right? Like there are a few of these guys who are
No, I
pushing
think
back.
so.
Yeah.
The problem essentially is that at the end of the day, I think of movies or anything else as a storytelling medium, right? And then how are you telling the story better? Right? Nobody cares if the technical aspects of what you use to make it are something brilliant. Like you saw this with Prithviraj's Aad Jeevitham, where he like basically like lost half his body weight and shit like that, and like shot in very harsh conditions. But like, so what? Like, how does it affect the story? Like, tell the story better. So I think
Yeah, I mean, no,
While-
those are all good.
yeah.
Those are all good to do, but they don't come in. They are not going to lift a story that is otherwise not going anywhere,
exactly
right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it is great if an actor is willing to lose whatever 30 kilos, right? Like what Tom Hanks
Yeah.
did in Castaway or Amir Khan
Yeah.
did in Dangal, but the writing has to match it, right? The emotional
Correct.
beat of seeing this fellow lose all that weight has to mean something to me. Just the fact that he's lost weight is not going to do it.
yeah. I was listening to the episode on the Trevor Noah podcast with John Oliver. I haven't finished it, but like a couple of things caught my eye. Right, one is that Trevor Noah initially was called over to do the Daily Show. Hey, no, I'm
Yeah.
not doing it because he was called into the writers' room in the morning, and he's like, "You guys are doing homework. I'm doing comedy." Right, like. But John Oliver
Yeah.
says two things, right? Is that you see, like you walked in at the wrong time because that homework is actually what sets up a great show, right? And actually, like you can't write a show like the Daily Show or whatever he does with HBO last week tonight, relying on one joke, right? And then
to unlock your iPhone first.
the joke can collapse and like basically take your story.
Sorry. You can't just come and write a joke. You have to unlock your iPhone first. What was that? That was your phone. Sorry, it just came.
so
it was
like-
as expressive as you, so it just made me laugh. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, so literally that, right? That and like when he started hosting the Daily Show, what he realized was like, you have to catch what can go wrong in the first instance. So the plot or the fundamentals of storytelling have never changed, right? Now you are sort of embellishing it with layers and stuff like that. But if the logic of the story doesn't hold, or you're not able to captivate the audience with the pacing and the way you tell the story, then none of these other
Everything
things
else doesn't matter.
and like, yeah. And you can make a movie these days with a really small budget. You can also make it with a really large budget, right? And I don't even think it's distribution that's the issue anymore. It is about what catches sort of people's eye and stuff like that, right? Which is probably a distribution problem, but there is more to it. I don't know, man. Like, so the real sort of tension for a storyteller, therefore, needs to be like, am I telling it for a large number of people, or am I telling it in its true essence, where the story gets translated in sincerity, right? And whatever this IMAX thing is and all is like, I don't know, to me a big distraction from what storytelling is about.
Tony, you should stop watching movies, and I think you should just get the script and read them. Sit in your room,
that is what Chops
just into
does.
the pep. Yeah.
Abhishek Chopra, the only person who's read all the transcripts of LOL, has never listened to it.
Actually watched.
That's how he consumes
Yeah.
content.
You know what he can do? He can get all the transcripts and use one of these read aloud softwares and listen to them.
Unlock your iPhone first.
Yeah. So, Tony, what exactly happened in the last week was Prashant DP came up with the pledge, right? And then I did the turn, and then you brought it all back and brought it together in the Prestige,
Yeah.
right? So, I think that neatly sums up the two projects that we have done in this week. Now, think about it, no? So, we spoke about all this technology and movie making and everything. Look at James Cameron, right? Who is arguably probably the most influential, Hollywood and by extension, film director in the world in the last, I don't know, 45, 50 years, right? The person who made pretty much every big film that we know of, right?
Yeah.
Like from Titanic to Terminator to everything in between.
Oh, big film like that, okay.
I mean, yeah, influential in the
Titanic
sense
projects.
Titanic project. No, I mean, in terms of the pure commerce and what, and even in terms of expanding the ambit of storytelling, right? Terminator 2 was not in my list of 3 films, but only because the list only had to have 3 films, right? Otherwise, it would have been up there. It's a film that still, it came, 30 years back, and you can watch it right now and it looks contemporary, right? Which you can't say that about too many pieces of cinema. You look at what James Cameron has been doing for the last 15 years or so, right? Actually, almost coming up to 20 years now. He's just come out with his 3rd Avatar film. The guy has just gone on his own tangent, literally under the water. He enjoys deep sea diving.
That
He is apparently
second Avatar film, the first half was basically a video game tutorial. It was like, how do you learn to swim?
And now the 3rd part is the actual video game, so now go and play. No, the 3rd part is not done very well, apparently, right? And
actually, what we should have talked about, and we can start the real episode now, is basically there is a point at which people completely lose it, right? It's like our friend Dipinder Goyal, who is now stepped down as CEO of Eternal to pursue larger goals and projects.
he's come back to
And
the
is
old
standing on his head.
pet peeve. No, that's a different one. We'll do the topic on senility and creative, bankruptcy later. I think A.R. Rahman has also been in the news, so it's worth bringing up. Yeah, but that's a different one. I don't think James Cameron's thing is that. By the way, I don't know if you know, James Cameron, through his own individual enterprise, has actually funded scientific understanding of underwater world He's actually,
Really?
yeah, he's actually moved the frontiers. Yeah, in the last 15 years, because he has personally gone and said, "I want to do this. I'm interested in this," and he has actually funded and advanced
This is
knowledge
like
in that
that.
field.
Who's that singer who's funded Cricinfo because he
Mick Jagger.
wanted to? Mick Jagger.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's a bit like
That one.
Mick Jagger. Yeah, yeah.
Tell that story. What is that?
Mick Jagger was one of the early,
He was a big
people
cricket
who.
fan, and
He's a
he
huge
would
cricket
be
fan.
traveling.
Yeah, and he wanted to basically watch England play in Sharjah in 1997, right? So he was not in Sharjah, but he wanted to watch that back home wherever he was. And he actually invested in Cricinfo at that stage to try and build the first video live streaming platform on the internet, which did not exist back then. And apparently, Cricinfo had some kind of video streaming that they tried to set up for that tournament back in 1997. It might have been like 2 Mbps, or no, not even 2
Yeah.
Mbps. I don't know what it must have looked like one of those GIFs, basically, the live stream. But he was able to set up something, and they were able to set up something where you could stream and watch those matches.
So Mick Jagger
on the-
is directly responsible for LOL because the first social media digital head for ESPN Cricinfo doing streaming over the internet was Nitin Sundar back in the day.
As
From where?
Donald Trump would say, this is too cute. When they asked him whether he wants a third term, he said, that would be too cute. Yeah, that one only.
You're also the kind of person who enjoys movies like Animal and Durandar and stuff like that. I'll admit that I haven't watched them, right? Like 100% I haven't watched them, and neither do I.
But he's already clubbed both of them together.
Yeah.
Why? Simply because. Why?
Why? Yeah. No. So there is a definite crowd that says like throw your brains away when you're going for a movie. There is another crowd
You
that
can
says
keep your
like,
brains with you when you
vitamins.
go to watch Durandar.
No.
Durandar doesn't.
Correct, no.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, it's third. Third is like prey on the worst instincts of people, like jingoism, misogyny. Like take it and say, why not? Like present a counter perspective, right? So
This is a separate episode. This actually we should do this episode. I would love to do this episode where
nice. This was like rough paper for future level episodes.
Yeah. No. The question is, at what point are you showing something versus glorifying something, right? That is the question. That is the fundamental point there. And you could argue that Animal, I don't think Durandar really falls in that category, but Animal definitely will. Is he glorifying misogyny, or is he depicting a misogynist protagonist? It's a question.
Have you seen
and it's a
Arjun
question
Reddy?
worth asking. I have not watched Arjun Reddy, no.
Okay. So the other movie that I suggested was Super Sharanya, in which I haven't seen Arjun Reddy, but like the way he takes down Arjun Reddy is so beautiful. Like this was the movie that I'd suggested, right? I think the three movies that I said was Super Sharanya, Prestige, and Manichitra Thad, right? If I'm not mistaken. As
Correct.
Different as it can get. And so the reason for the three movies was like Prestige is pure cerebral, right? And Super Sharanya is so fun, but it is written from a girl's perspective in an engineering college. And it's
Right.
not something that you usually see in, forget Indian movies anywhere, right? Because by default, like men have sort of taken charge of whatever it is. And you don't get women telling as many stories, except for your friend Dodi crying at Barbie in the theater or something like that.
I was thinking
But
of
like-
Barbie.
Yeah.
When you said
So
this.
Super Sharanya is like the actual sort of like movie that needs to be made. Where it's like four girls in an engineering college, and like the takedown is so brilliant, including a caricature of Arjun Reddy. And the third one for me was Manish.
Which you managed to appreciate despite not watching Arjun Reddy.
Yeah, because caricature is like you would have seen enough memes to know what it's about. Basically, like, all of this like large amounts of South Indian movies just like feeding toxic masculinity for no reason. But the third movie that I picked was Manichitra Thad, which is actually like the culmination of both, right? Where you're bringing like cerebral storytelling and layering insane amounts of humor, like natural humor with it, right? Which is something that is probably missing in today's day and age, where you're not like making that kind of movie. So yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, we should talk about all these movies. Please don't steal from my future episode initiations.
No, we're putting the seeds out there. Yours was Michael Madan Kamarajan and
Yeah. Interstellar and
Apurva
Apurva
Sagodharagal.
Sagodharagal. I don't think, I'll rethink that list of 3. But at least 2 of them would be there. But anyway, for a future episode. Excellent. Cool. That I need to go. So can we wrap?
Of course.
Okay. Cool.
The transported man.
I am indeed the transported man because I need to get into a car and go to my son's school to pick him up right now. And if I don't go now, he'll be waiting there and wondering whether his dad has forgotten him once again. I'm coming, so we will end this episode here. Thank you for joining us. Do check out where is Bill Watterson at substack.com.
Oh yeah, correct.
.substack.com.
Yeah, I'll put it on my Insta. You also put it on your Insta. Like, what is it?
I've already put it on my Spotify. So, sure. Yeah.
Add it to Jobs playlist.
Yeah. No, we will add it in the description of this episode wherever you are watching it as well. So, but yeah, please listen, subscribe, share, read everything. Now you can consume us in many ways. Yeah. Enjoy.
And Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. Sir, January 31st vandana sir na wish panna or 2 minutes. 2 minutes kudukringla. Wait for January 31st. Then I will wish you a Happy New Year. Until then, thank you so much. See you soon on another episode of Leftover Lasagna. Bye-bye.
Bye.
அது ஏன் ஜனவரி 31st வரும்போது நியூ இயர் கொண்டாடுறீங்கன்னு கேக்குற மாதிரி இருக்கு. சார், ஜனவரி 31st வந்தா தானே சார் நியூ இயர் கொண்டாட முடியும்.